Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Everyone knows I have the best guest ever, but seriously, you know what, Matt? You might be the best of the best of the best guest ever on the show. I've been looking forward to recording with you. At first, let me just say, welcome, Matt, to the podcast, The Conscious Investor.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's really exciting. So I met, and this happens so often, I met Matt via one of the most extraordinary people I know. So you just find the best of the best and the extraordinary, you just kind of iterate all these things so everybody can have their place, right? But Jerome Myers introduced us, and it was one of the best introductions that I've ever been given. And Matt has not just one, but two podcasts, and I was able to join him on one. Actually, it just aired yesterday, which is so much fun. It was so fun to recap that conversation. But he has the Top Advisor Marketing podcast, but he also has Be Your Own Loud. And I love the Be Your Own Loud. I like Top Advisor. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. Top Advisor Marketing podcast is really, it's fantastic. Really, really great information. I've nerded out on it. But the Be Your Own Loud, this is where everybody needs it. So Matt, I want to stop talking and say, let's have this conversation about people getting comfortable in their own skin. How did you become comfortable as you?
So my wife and I worked at a place called Boys Town. All right. And so Boys Town is a home for at-risk kids. And we lived with 8 teenage boys in one big house. And I thought I wanted to be a therapist. Okay. So we worked with 36 at-risk kids. I had the joy of being able to be a father to kids who didn't have a father. It's unbelievable. My kids were born there. It was unbelievable, life-changing experience. And then I wanted to become a therapist, right? So I went to grad school to become a therapist because that's what you have to do. I realized very quickly that I was bad at it, which, by the way, really sucks after you're $60,000 in the hole from student loans because grad school is insanely expensive.
Insanely.
Yeah. And so I graduated and found out I was terrible at the career that I was going to go into.
Hold on. How do you even find out that you're how does a therapist quantify themselves as oh, I suck, I gotta quit?
Well, part of it's a feeling, right? Part of it, realize you're not making progress with people. The other thing that I realized is all people do, Julie, is they just dump their stuff on you all day. And I would drive home crying every day because it was the only way I could just release all of and what people go through. It's horrible stuff. And so anyway, so I realized that I really wasn't cut out for it. So here's what happened. I sold my soul for money. Not really, but so all of my therapist friends got really upset at me because I became a business consultant for a financial services coaching company, with the largest at the time. It's still probably the largest today. And I tried to be everybody else. I tried to be like the advisors. I tried to be like my boss. I tried, the car and the watch and the clothes and all of the stupid stuff that we all get caught up in. Mm-hmm. And then I went out on my own. I just realized I was making him way too much money and he wasn't really willing to share. I made him $1.4 million my last year and I wasn't even getting 10% of that. And I'm this is not cool. So I went out on my own and then I was in this sea of sameness. Everybody was a coach, Julie. And right. I was I'm going to die. I have to feed my family. What do I need to do? And that's when I realized that you can't compete with me because I'm the only me there is. So how do I stand out from the crowd? And so what I did was I realized that I was one of the only coaches in financial services who dealt with your life, not just your practice. Okay. Because everybody's I can make you $1 million. And I'm hell, I can make you $1 million. That's not a problem. But here's the deal. If you're fundamentally unhappy, you're just throwing money into this gaping hole into your soul. Let's work on that. And that separated me from all of the other coaches. And I was busy. And that's really when I really woke up and realized that I don't need the watch. I don't need the car. I don't need the shoes. I don't need the house. I don't need the $18 billion in the bank. What I need to be is I need to be a good husband. I need to be a good father, and I need to be true to myself. And once you get to that point, I just believe that the world is like, hey, it's about freaking time. Let's go attack the world. And then all of a sudden, all of these doors start open. Anyway, so that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's extraordinary. And there's this total parallel that you don't know about between this and another conversation I've had recently, recently recorded with Dennis Meralda from the Building Men podcast. So if you're listening to this and haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. We were talking about, so the correlation here is trying to feed your soul with all the things, like you said, you know, the perfect house, white picket fence, the watch, the car, it's emptiness. But we were talking about that through the lens of masculinity and manhood and no rite of passage. And so people chasing after these things because it's like, well, what's going to define me as a man? So that's an interesting angle to throw, but I know you and I can talk about anything. So like, yeah, like, do you think that part of you coming into your identity was you also like crossing that bridge of manhood?
I think I've crossed that bridge a number of times. And I think it's interesting because I've heard people talk about that as this like epic singular event. And I don't believe that it is. I believe that I've crossed over into different genres of masculinity throughout my entire life. And so when I was in high school, I wanted to try out for the musical, okay? Because I already sang and I played tuba and lots of instruments, and it was just something I really wanted to do. And her name's Marie Kerstetter. I hope she hears this show. She said, "I need you to dance." Like, oh, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you know, because I was a soccer player, I was manly dude, you know, I was a hairy chest at 16, you know, that sort of raw, you know, sort of thing. And then I started dancing. And I realized so quickly that there was nothing more masculine that I could do as a human than, you know, because I did partner dancing, we did jazz, ballet, tap, everything, right? So I'm chucking women through the air, and you know, I mean, it's just, you know, you're wearing tights and you're just ripped, and it was so wonderful. So that was like one aspect of me feeling comfortable in the skin that I had as a male, right? Is the body, the build, you know, the structure, that sort of stuff. But man, I could bore you with 10,000 other iterations, having my children, you know, of course I didn't physically have them. My wife had the twins, but I was there when they were born. And I remember that being another transformative part in my feeling of masculinity. But I think with that, I think you have to find your own, and it isn't male or female. It's not masculine or feminine. It's not the apex predator crap that people are talking about. There is a continuum in my belief, Julie. I think that you can be who you want to be, and you don't have to necessarily identify yourself, because if you allow yourself to go through all of the rites of passage that we're given gifts for, you don't know where you're going to end up. So having that as like the ultimate end result as a man, I think you're just missing so much. You're missing emotion, you're missing passion, you're missing femininity, which is, by the way, way stronger than any stupid masculinity crap that's out there. You guys are like freaking tank indestructible beings on this planet, and we're just the things, you know, that kind of are here when you need us. So
I don't see it like that at all. But it is interesting. Like, I'm like, oh man, there's a balance between it all. You know, one of someone that I really enjoy listening to, Angelo Cisco, he'll talk about, you know, just that feminine energy bringing creativity. But I think he speaks on things very much in that continuum flow that you're talking about, and being able to bridge into, and, you know, not just have to be in one or the other, but to use the energies really well.
It's where you're comfortable, and allowing yourself to be comfortable, I think, is a gift that once you give yourself that, I think everything just changes.
I agree, because I had to come to this moment in time, and it, like you, it wasn't just a singular moment in time, but I had to just embrace and say, you know what, my personality is me, for better or for worse. This is my personality. And when I try to act like somebody else, or I try to like Oh man, I always wanted to be that sweet, quiet girl in class.
Wow. How'd that work out for you?
I still got the detentions for talking, like I enjoyed people so much and wanting to, just like I always think of like a Labrador dog, just like being friendly and nice and just wanting to like get to know you and like make you comfortable. And so I couldn't be that sweet, shy, quiet person because that wasn't who I was. It felt like trash, it just felt empty and horrible. But I mean, some people and struggle with really allowing themselves to evolve and accept that self-acceptance that I'm not going to be perfect. This part of like I'm a double-edged sword. I've got a big personality that could be a whole lot of fun or a whole lot of pain, right? It has the two sides to it. So when we think about people that, as I think you and I like to really amplify voices and help people really get comfortable, what are some strategies that you've found that have helped, people just start unlocking that?
Curiosity. I just had the joy of interviewing a gentleman. His name's Win Claybaugh, and he is a partner, but also the director of the School of Education for John Paul Mitchell. Okay, so hair care products, right? And one of the things that he talked about was one of the greatest gifts and muscles that he continuously exercises is curiosity. When you see a little kid go to the zoo for the first time is a great example. And just that wonder that they have at all of the new experiences and all of that, we still have that. And not only should you have wonder for the world, curiosity for the world, appreciation for this amazing, random amazingness that we have every single solitary day. But if you have curiosity about yourself too, I think that's where these doors start cracking open, right? Well, why do I think that way? It's the same question that you would ask, why, Julie, are you that way? Well, screw that. So my grandmother said to me, and everybody's grandmother says stuff to him, but when you point at somebody, you got three fingers pointing back at you, so you're three times more responsible than the other person, right? She also said you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you listen twice as much as you talk. And that's the other thing I don't think people do is I don't think that they don't listen to themselves. We all have something inside of us. You can call it whatever you want. It could be something higher. It could be just you, whatever you want to call it. But if you listen with that level of curiosity, you're going to then not only know yourself, but you're going to appreciate it. Julie, your personality is amazing. It's why you are who you are. Is it a double-edged sword? Well, yeah, I'm right there with you. There are some people who think I'm the bee's knees and other people who can't stand being around me at all. I'm still going to stay true to myself. Now, luckily, I think you and I can regulate a little bit. But the only way that we can do that is because we have listened to ourselves. We're curious of who we are, and we want to know more about what this is, because this is the greatest journey you're ever going to go on.
Curiosity is one of my favorite words in the world. It's a favorite practice. My dad taught me that. He was curious about everything. And it just he left that imprint on my life forever. And it sometimes creates awkward situations. I experienced that as a kid. And then now I put my own kids in that same position. They're like, why are you asking that? Why are you doing that? Can you go behind that door over there? Like, I'm just curious. I'm not doing anything wrong. And it doesn't say not to. So
let's go.
I'm just curious. What is behind that door? It's just, and to do that to give ourselves that gift. I don't know that many people have been given themselves the permission to be curious about themselves.
One of the things that I did as a coach is I had this thing called the 30-day journey. And it was a series of questions that I stole from everywhere. But a lot of them were from Socrates, specifically, who was a hero of mine in undergrad, because I have a philosophy degree, which is the worst degree possible, but whatever.
It is not. We can debate that one, because I agree that it's the best.
So I remember when I was testing it, the first person that I tested it on was my mother. And my mother at the time was very early 60s. And I gave her the 30 questions. And she's crying. She got me like, oh God, I just made my mom cry. It's like the worst thing in the world, right? And she said, Matt, how come nobody ever asked me these questions? And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how could somebody not ask you these questions? Like, these are the fundamental questions of life. And so they're sometimes just, and this is the greatest thing about what you do and what I do with this medium, is I get to ask really super cool people whatever question that I want. And I get the privilege of hearing their answers, right? I get to witness that firsthand with that level of excitement and curiosity and wonder. I think that you should ask yourself those questions, even just starting, ask yourself why. Just ask yourself why. Why are you doing what you're doing right now? Why are you eating the way that you're eating, or what are you eating and why are you eating it? Why are you exercising? Why are you not exercising? That question is the question of everything when you're looking at yourself. And when you start unpacking the why, you might need therapy, but when you unpack the why, you start seeing the trends and how you keep feeding that level of homeostasis, of that equilibrium in your life. And the most difficult thing for everybody, Julie, is to break out of what's comfortable. And I purposefully don't get comfortable. I don't want to ever be comfortable, because then I'm complacent. I want to always be challenging everything I can.
You're giving me so much. It was great because off air we started talking a little bit, and I'm like, no, we just got to start recording because I already know that you and I have lots to say on everything. And I'm with you on that point of on so much of this, that question as to why. That's such a great point for people to start, just be curious about it. You're not being narcissistic, you're not being selfish or egotistical. And the thing is that once we get to know ourselves, can't we engage the world around us in a better way?
We do it in the world. It looks different. It just does. People see you differently. They interact with you differently. They're attracted to you because that level of acceptance of yourself is contagious, right? Jerome is such a wonderful example. When him and I met, my life changed. I mean, Jerome changed my life. I'm way older than you and much, much older than him. And, he just asked me things in a way that made me look at things differently. And I just absolutely love that. And then you become attracted, you become indebted to that person because they did that. Why wouldn't everybody listening to this show, why wouldn't you want to do that? And here's the greatest exercise, not the greatest, one of my favorite exercises, Julie, very quickly. Go to the grocery store, okay? Because we all do that. I mean, even if you get your stuff delivered, every once in a while you go to a store. So just you're going to a store. Ask the cashier how they're doing. That's all you have to do. But I don't want you to just say, how are you doing? I want you to actually ask them, how are you doing? And see what happens. Because even if they say fine, the fact that you cared enough to ask them in a sea of just people being grumpy and mean and short, that smile, that question, that engagement can really not only have a ripple effect, but you could have saved that person, changed that person's life. And it just takes that one question. I believe that we all just are flying through life so fast that we just don't give our fellow humans the respect that we should be giving them by asking them those questions and giving them that attention, that care, concern, and curiosity. When you do that, we wouldn't be in the situations that we're all with, polar opposite of everybody. I don't care if you agree with me or not. I still love you because you're here, right? This is all the fact that you woke up this morning. We talked about this before. The fact that you woke up this morning, that's a gift. This is a gift. And so many of us just take that so for granted. It doesn't matter if you wake up in pain, because I do every day. It doesn't make it, matter how you wake up, you woke up. So what are you going to do?
That right there is the ultimate question is, I wake up, I thank God for the gift of heartbeats. That's one of my practices. And it's like, my heart is still beating. This is a gift. What is the purpose of my day? I mean, I know my agenda. I know I'm going to talk to Matt today, and that's going to be an episode that I'm like super stoked to, like conversation I'm ready to have. But it's just so fun. But you look at what do I get to contribute? What is my purpose? What is bigger than me? What can I do in this world? I want to go to that concept of quiet. That's interesting. We are racing, and I say that people are just racing to death. And it's like, hey, it could happen at any moment. Why are we racing through trying to get to these milestones and checkpoints and like, wait, what? Whoa. Just like cool the jets, please. I'm reading Ryan Holiday's Stillness is a Key. And it's so good. And it's leaving an impression on me. It's not a difficult read, but I realized that as I'm looking at the coming year and how I'm spending my time, I'm not weaving in that white space enough. So I actually put on my calendar, of reboot every single day. Like, here's the reboot, here's the white space, because why should I just run through the day and continually go? What are some practices that you do to create that kind of that quiet, so that, because you're a driven, motivated person, and you've got like so many cool things going on. How do you keep it in check so that you have that calm?
Well, it's a work in progress. I definitely have not mastered that yet.
Fail forward. That's what I say.
Absolutely. Right? So, because of my specific disciplines in life, my body does things. So I'm up pretty much at 5 a.m. every morning. So some people like, that's not early enough. It's more than enough time for me. I'm usually up from 5 to about 6, but sometimes I go back to sleep. Sometimes I don't, but I take that time every day to check in with myself, right? So I check in on how I'm doing physically, how I'm doing mentally, how I'm doing spiritually, how I'm doing professionally. Like, I will go through these kind of pillars in my life, one of my big things, I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great father, right? I mean, everything else is really kind of secondary to that. But how am I doing, right? Have I done something thoughtful in my wife's love language yesterday? And what am I going to do today, right? How can I do something to motivate my kids to be just that much better at who they are and what they do? And then I think about Proudmouth. I think about our company. I think about our team. I think about, what do we have going on? But anyway, it's that check-in. I also do a lot of meditation. So I sit quietly. There's some very specific frequencies that I found are very helpful to help clear my mind. I can't, because I'm older, can't sit in the ways that I used to. So I just find a comfortable position. So I do a lot of that meditation, but for me, a lot of it is hitting the reset button. And I don't think a lot of people do this, Julie. It's like, okay, I'm ready for the day and I'm just going to go until the day's done and then I'm going to crash. I don't do that. So I build white space in, and I've practiced it enough now where I only need 5 minutes to reset. So something that happens, and I think I might have talked to you about this when you were on our show, but I have to be in a very specific mindset to do this, right? So right before this, I was presenting to a huge group of insurance salespeople. Very different energy, right?
Very different energy.
Yeah. So,
and purpose and outcome. And
there you go. And so that mindfulness that I have with my intention going into things, before I interview, I have a whole routine. Right? I sing a couple of songs to warm my voice up. I review the client. I'm looking at their picture. I do a little bit of Googling on them. And then I shut everything down and I sit very quietly and I just focus on breathing. And I think that's one of the, people always think it's so hard. Man, if you just think about breathing and you're like, oh, wow, I'm actually breathing. You don't have to quiet your mind. It doesn't go blank. That doesn't happen to anybody. There's always crap going on in there. It's just getting it to that crap to a manageable level so that you can focus here. That's what I try to do. That's probably a really long explanation, but that's the focus that I have.
I love it. I think that's extremely helpful especially, when this is, aired and everything, people are going to be at that spot where, New Year's resolutions are starting to feel the pain, and this is that reset that most people need is, no, it's okay. Because that permission to say, okay, what I'm hearing from you this entire time, Matt, is I love the fluidity in which you live. So, okay, maybe I slept in, maybe I went back to sleep, maybe I got up, but this is my common practice, and here's where I'm weaving this in, and this is how I'm doing it. And it's not so rigid. I think a lot of people are creating these really rigid routines right now, and it really seems painful to me because I'm like, how can you? I was trying to do that, and I'm thinking, so this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I can't do that. I need a little more breathing room. I don't want to be in a straitjacket. And so giving ourselves that permission to even breathe and flex with our habits and our routines. But that requires knowing thyself. That requires knowing what you need. The path of self-discovery.
Well, sure. And it's ever changing too. I thought that so when I worked at the consulting company, my boss got up at 4 a.m. He exercised for like 9 hours or whatever, and, ate twigs and berries because he was going to live forever. Right. And good for him. And he looks fantastic. And he's unbelievably wealthy, that was what he wanted. And I remember, so I have twins, and in that, of course, is a very different parenting experience than having, singles. I couldn't have anything that was really super structured because my life was chaos. And so I was like, what am I going to do? So am I going to fight the chaos? I read this great book and I don't remember the name of it. It was about chaos theory. This is how nerdy I get. It was about chaos theory. And one of the biggest issues with chaos theory is people try to fight chaos. But if you don't fight it, if you kind of, so I'll tell you a very quick story. So when I was in the Navy, I never got seasick. So I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm built wrong or something. I don't know. But it was very good because we were in a nor'eastern storm in the North Atlantic. And so it was like 20-foot swells and the ship was jumping up and down. But stuff still has to happen. Like everybody just can't hold on to a garbage can, right? And so I was in my, this big orange suit, just in case I went overboard, and I was strapped into this line, and I was going to the forward part of the ship, and the wind was just pounding me in waves, and I'm like holding on for dear life, and it was so exhausting, right? So I get up to the front part of the ship, and I would do my job, and then I would come back, and then when the wind was behind me, like I would let go, and I would just jump a little bit, and I would just it was like being on the moon, and that became this huge life philosophy for me that I can try really hard to go against the wind. You can call the wind whatever you want. God, Allah, I don't care. Whatever you want to call.
Yep.
You can either go against the wind and get really, really tired, not get very far, and really wet, by the way, because I was in the water, right? Or you can let the wind go to your back and trust in the wind and see where the wind takes you. Now, I still navigated. It wasn't just blind, take the wheel, but that to me has allowed me to be as fluid as I've needed to, because we could spend 3 hours just talking about the different careers that I've had in 50 years, right? And all of a sudden I'm here with you behind a microphone, which is like my favorite place. This is my happy place, talking to somebody who I think is just the coolest person in the world. I mean, this is such a gift, right? And I would never have gotten here if I would have been really wicked rigid on anything in my life. And I'm totally grateful for where I am right now. Is it perfect? Hell no. But is it great? Absolutely.
Is perfection the goal, right? Like I gave up on that because I was a perfectionist for so many years. And like case in point with everything you're saying, it's so exhausting. It's exhausting when you're trying to go against who you are. It's exhausting when you're trying to go against all the forces. Like, how about you just roll with all of this and let it serve you and work with you? I think a lot of people, tell me what you think about this. I think a lot of people are so busy fighting themselves. Like, I could have been that person. I just have too much personality, and so my personality really won myself over. But I when I would try to fight that, when I would try to fight who I was to be that, shy, quiet, sweet girl, really wanted to be called sweet when I was like, because those are the good girls and
Oh yeah.
they were just perfect, they were perfect. And when I try to be that, it's so exhausting. I just need everybody to stop exhausting yourself and put your energy like just into just being you and
Well,
evolve.
there's a lot in what you said there. So I really hope people were paying attention because there was a lot of stuff in there. But the reason why I believe, now this is my belief, and you don't have to agree with me. My belief is all of the world's problems start here.
Preach.
And if you, all of your interactions, how we deal with countries, races, religion, sexuality, all of that all comes from your insecurity, your issues. It's not them, because you are never going to be in control of anybody but yourself. But people don't think they have control over themselves. They think that all of these outside pressures are everything and why they are who they are. No, you are who you are. Figure that out, because when you go into a conversation and you know what your baggage is, it changes the outcome of the conversation, and it allows you to learn from those people instead of, vomiting your whatever on your opinions, your beliefs, or whatever. Just shut up, check in, and then try to listen. And I believe, again, I think all of our world's problems start within ourselves. And if we could fix our own issues, I think it'd just be a more pleasant place to be.
I agree with you. I mean, what I'm like, I always do. I'm like, we agree more than people realize. And this is a really another good point, is that we agree on these fundamentals. We probably have lots of differences.
Oh, sure.
But that doesn't stop engagement and stimulating and expanding thoughts. And that's what is so powerful, is like, you show up as yourself and you bring yourself, and every single person is such a gift. If you just be you're this gift to this world. And if everybody shows up, I mean, it's like confetti and bright lights and a great party, right? But we're able to also see, maybe you've experienced this, but sometimes when I'm willing, and basically I live willing to show up as myself because it's easier, we've established that. But when I'm willing to show up in that capacity, I'm also able to see facets that I might be deficient in. And I learn more from those people. And it's somewhat what you were alluding to, right? Is that I learn from you, Matt, and I learn from Jerome, and I learn from my other friends. And so when we see ourselves as who we are, and we receive these little fragmented parts where they just need a little, extra frosting on them or something, you can start getting that from the people around you and building yourself up in this really extremely powerful way.
So I want to bring this back. Let's do a little bit of a reset, because everything that we also said is not only going to help you personally and spiritually, familially, but it also really helps you in business. Because here's the thing, you are memorable. That's it. People are going to remember you because you're you. You're not some gray matter thing that I've heard a million times. You are you. You become more referable. You have more opportunities. Your centers of influence that you want to have relationships with are going to be much more apt to want to hang out with you and do business with you, because you are you. You're not just some other schmuck who's selling real estate, selling investments, buying real estate, managing whatever, right? When you are yourself, you are more memorable, and you're just going to be a better person to do business with. Because I don't want, so here's the thing. This is all, unicorns and roses and confetti. And I get that. But I also enjoy being successful, right? I like making money. I like growing my business. I like being a good mentor to my team. But I couldn't do any of that and I don't do any of that. In fact, I had a meeting with one of our leaders in our organization yesterday, and I had to deliver some difficult news to her because there was a deficiency in one of the things that we offered, and I wanted to correct it. And I was mad. I was upset. I was disappointed. I mean, everything that you don't want to bring to a conversation, I was like, right. And I checked in and I thought to myself, who does she need? What part of me does she need the most? She doesn't need angry guy or old white guy. She doesn't need any of that stuff. She needs somebody who is going to mentor her to be more successful. And guess what? I know where that is in this because I checked in. And so when I went into the meeting and I got done and I delivered the news and we worked on some new systems and some things to correct some of the problems, I said to her, and I try to do this. I said, look, how did that go? Like, was this okay? And she was like, what? And I was like, I want to make sure that, you know, that this was an okay meeting. This was a good use of your time. And she's like, you are the weirdest boss ever. She's like, why are you asking me that? I'm like, because I care and I wanted to know. And because I want to be helpful to you. I don't want to be punitive. I don't want to punish you. I wanted you to just be better and happier and more satisfied with what is being delivered. And she's like, well, of course that's how I felt. And Julie, man, if I would have gone into that the way I was feeling 8 minutes before that call, wouldn't have ended up that way. When you're trying to close business, when you're trying to create new opportunities, you have to do that check. You check where you're at, because when you do that, then you're going in with your eyes wide open, and then you can go back to what we talked about before, which is to truly be curious, because you're not always worried about, oh, am I going to say this? Am I going to say this? No, shut up. Be curious, ask questions, look what's behind that door. Show genuine curiosity in the people that you want to do business with, and they will do so much more business with you. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And one of the reasons why is now, well, I can trust this person. This person, did they show up? They're authentic. I know what I'm going to get. I know that they're going to be transparent. And what they say is going to lead to, you know, the success that I want. And if something's going sideways, we're going to deal with it in a healthy, productive way. And they have the capacity, their ego isn't so big. Because when you know yourself, you don't have to have this. You're not trying to build your ego when you know yourself.
No. That's that whole abolition or destruction of the ego was, for some reason, well, I know what reason was. I really needed that when I was in school. And so my philosophy professors just destroyed me on a regular basis. I went in thinking I was, you know, prepared for the arguments, and man, within minutes, they're just, you know, tearing me down. And I asked one of my mentor professors afterwards, after I had just graduated and I was really excited. And I was about to go on this internship journey. And I sat down, his name was Dr. Light. And I said, Dr. Light, why did you beat up on me more than anybody else in the class? He said, one, you needed it. And I was like, ow. And he said, two, I knew you could handle it. And I was like, oh, okay. So you just slapped me across the face and then you patted me on the back. So, but I really do believe that, again, it just all gets back to we just get in our own way. The reason why all of the people who listen to this aren't as successful as they want to be, it's because they're stopping themselves from being that successful. Meet yourself where you're at, and then really see where you want to go and make it realistic. I love that you brought up the fact that you wanted to be this perfect child, Julie, right? Perfection is unattainable. It's horrible. It's a terrible thing to even try to move toward. Try to be great. If we all just tried to be great, could you imagine how wonderful this world would be? Instead of this impossible perfection, just be great. And it's not as hard as you think, because your great isn't Julie's great, isn't my great, isn't Jerome's great, isn't the author that you're reading's great. It's your great. Just be your own great.
That opens up, and I'll just have to have you back on the show again, you know, later. We'll just talk about the whole comparison thing and how to overcome that, because that's what that comes down to is, well, I have to be perfect. I have to do this and that because that's what it looks like. Put that down. You don't have to look like everybody else. You don't need to live their lives. My common expression is, there's this peanut gallery. I view my life as, this is my life. I'm the main star of the show. These are my supporting cast members, and maybe that's the peanut gallery over there, and they don't get to tell me how to live my life. I can learn from them and I want to learn from these, voices from the outside, but I have to walk in these shoes every single day. Yeah. So their version of what my life, because people will try to tell you how your life should be, live your life, but you can live your life when you know who you are. And when you know who you are, you thrive 360 every part of your life. I feel like we brought this full circle. Well done, Matt. I could talk with you for hours just because you're such an incredible person. And I just appreciate your thoughtfulness on so many levels and just being able to have a very high caliber conversation. Very meaty, and I very much appreciate it. I know that this conversation has served people well I think there's a growing self-awareness, awakening happening in the world where people are starting to do that personal reflection work. And I am confident that this is supporting people in that process. How can they connect up with you, and what would you have to offer to somebody? You have a lot of things going on that are amazing. So I would love to say, promote away.
Sure. Well, first off, I exist on LinkedIn because I run a professional business for people who are experts, and experts live on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love that. I accept almost everybody's connection. But listen, if you connect with me, don't try to sell me within the first message, because I'm going to block you, and that just drives me nuts. That happens to me all the time, Julie. But please connect with me.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. But honestly, so for your audience, I think Kirk and I realized something a little while ago, that there are things in business that are scalable and unscalable. And our unscalable thing is really our podcasting service, right? So we help produce podcasts for experts with soup to nuts, and I'm not going to get into that. But what Kirk and I ended up doing was we created an online university. It's called the PodRocket Academy. Basically everything that we've learned about marketing, branding, podcasting, social media, we created these courses. And there's a free version. There's a paid version. Please just go to podrocketacademy.com. Join the Academy, join for free, just start understanding, because no matter how you're going to be a conscious investor, you have to communicate your unique ability, whatever that is, your value proposition, what do you ever want to call it. And if you need help creating that, we have lots of wonderful tips, tricks, and techniques, but also not just from us, from people like you, Julie, like people that we know, we love, and like, oh my gosh, they're such good thought leaders. We put them in the Academy. And I would love for people to go ahead and start there, just because that's kind of our give back. We have, it's hours and hours and hours and hours of education, and it's wildly entertaining, and we're very well organized.
I have no doubt it would be wildly entertaining. So here's the thing. I would encourage, even if you're not sure that that's the right path for you, like, well, I'm not going to start a podcast.
Sure.
Actually, there's a lot of personal development that happens just trying something new and stepping out of your comfort zone and exploring and just cracking open the can of curiosity in your life. You don't know what's behind something, and just exercising that muscle is really powerful. So I'd encourage you, even if you're like, well, I'm not going down that, I don't need that. Actually, maybe it's the gateway for you to do something more in your life.
It might be.
It might be. Oh, Matt, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me on The Conscious Investor.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
And all you wonderful listeners, until next time, live big, love bigger. Feeling alone? Disconnected? Conscious investors often feel alone or disconnected because of their unique perspective and desire to expand their thinking. But the journey of a lifetime isn't meant to be solo or forged by grit alone. Join the Conscious Investor community on Facebook, link arms, exchange ideas, and expand your thinking on finances, relationship, and community. Join the Conscious Investor group on Facebook today.